Admiral Hana stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the stars through the big windows. She had been doing this job for 20 years, and nothing surprised her anymore, or so she thought. The communication officer, a young Valari named Kimo, turned around in his chair. His blue skin looked pale and his 4 eyes were wide with fear. "Admiral," he said, his voice shaking. "You need to hear this." Hana walked over to his station. The Valari were known across the galaxy for being calm and wise. They never got scared easily. If Kimo was afraid, something was very wrong. "What is it?" she asked. Kimo pressed a button. Strange sounds filled the bridge. It was not like any language. Hana knew. The sounds were broken and weak, like someone was dying while trying to speak. "It's a distress signal," Kimo said, "from the Kepler 442 system." Hana knew that system. It was far away, near the edge of known space, close to the area that everyone called the Deathworld sector. No one went there. Ever. "Can you translate it?" she asked. Kimo nodded and started working on his computer. "It's using basic math patterns, simple numbers. Someone is trying very hard to make sure we understand." The translation took 2 hours. When it was done, Hana read the message 3 times. Each time it made her feel more sick. "To anyone who can hear this, my name is Captain June of the Thailand people. Our world is dying. A race called the Devourers came to our system 6 months ago. They do not just kill us. They eat us alive. They keep us awake while they feed. They say our fear makes us taste better." Hana closed her eyes. She had seen many terrible things in space, but this was different. This was evil in its purest form. The message continued. "We have tried to fight. We are not warriors, but we tried. Our weapons do nothing to their ships. Their skin is too thick. They heal too fast. We are losing." Captain June's voice got weaker as the message went on. "We are not asking for an army. We know we are already dead. But please remember us. Remember that we tried to be good. We took care of the children of 17 different species. We protected them when their own people could not. Now the children will die with us." The message ended with coordinates, and one last sentence. "If there are others like the Devourers out there, please stop them. Do not let them do this to anyone else." The bridge was silent for a long time. Finally, Hana spoke. "How long ago was this sent?" 3 weeks, Kimo said. "It's been bouncing around space, getting weaker. We almost missed it." Hana looked at the star map. The Kepler 442 system was marked in red, Danger Zone. Next to it was a bigger red area with a simple label, Deathworld Sector, no entry. Every species in the galaxy knew about the Deathworlders. They lived somewhere in that red zone. No one knew what they looked like or what they wanted. Ships that went into their space never came back. The few that did return brought only crazy stories about monsters that looked almost normal, but fought like demons. The stories said Deathworlders came from a world so dangerous that just living there made them strong beyond belief. They said these creatures could survive in empty space without suits. They said Deathworlders hunted for fun and never gave up once they started chasing something. Most people thought the stories were just tales to scare children, but the red zone on every star map was real. Something lived there, and it did not want visitors. "Admiral," said her first officer, a calm Valari named Duro, "we should report this to the council. They will know what to do." Hana almost agreed. That was the right thing to do. Follow the rules. Let others make the hard choices. But then she thought about Captain June's voice, so tired and afraid. She thought about the children. "The council will talk for months," she said. "By then, everyone in that system will be dead." "What else can we do?" Duro asked. "We are explorers, not fighters. Our ships have science equipment, not weapons." Hana looked at the star map again. The Thailand system was 3 days away from the Deathworld border. If the stories were true, if something really lived in that dark space, maybe it could help. "Admiral," Kimo said quietly, "I'm getting more signals. Weaker ones. I think the Devourers are spreading to other systems." That decided it for Hana. She could not save the Thailand people. They were probably already dead, but she could try to stop this from happening again. "Set course for the edge of Deathworld space," she ordered. The bridge crew stared at her. In 20 years, Admiral Hana had never given an order that surprised them. She was known for being careful and smart. "Admiral," Duro said, "you cannot be serious. The Deathworlders are the only ones who might be able to stop the Devourers." Hana finished. "Look at our weapons, look at our ships. We are scientists and explorers. The Devourers eat civilizations like ours for breakfast." She walked to the communication station. "Chemo, prepare a message burst. Include everything we know about the Devourers. Include Captain June's message. Include the coordinates of every system that might be in danger." "Who are we sending it to?" Chemo asked. Hana took a deep breath. "Anyone listening in the Deathworld sector." The crew looked at each other with fear. Everyone knew this might be the last order Admiral Hana ever gave. Messages sent into Deathworld space had a way of bringing very bad things back with them. But as Hana watched Chemo prepare the transmission, she felt something she had never felt before. Hope. Maybe the monsters in the dark were not the kind of monsters she thought they were. Maybe some monsters hunted other monsters. The message was ready. Hana looked around at her crew one last time. They were all afraid, but they trusted her. That trust was the heaviest thing she had ever carried. "Send it," she whispered. The transmission shot into the darkness between the stars, carrying with it the dying words of Captain June and the desperate hope of Admiral Hana. Somewhere in the black, something was listening. Something was getting very, very angry. Commander Tay was drinking coffee in his office when the universe changed forever. The hot liquid was halfway to his lips when Lieutenant Park burst through the door without knocking. Park never did anything without following the rules first. "Sir," Park said, breathing hard like he had been running. "We got something. Something big." Tay put down his coffee cup. "What kind of something?" "Alien contact, sir. Real alien contact." For 10 seconds, Tay just stared at him. Humans had been looking for aliens for hundreds of years. They had found empty planets, dead cities, and lots of rocks, but never a living alien. "Are you sure?" Tay asked. Park nodded and handed him a tablet. "The message came through our deep space listening post near Pluto. It's weak, but it's real. And sir, it's bad." Tay read the translation twice, then he read it again. With each word, he felt something cold growing in his chest. Not fear, something much more dangerous. The message told a story of creatures called Devourers, who ate intelligent beings alive. It talked about a species called the Thylon who protected children from 17 different worlds. Children who were going to die because monsters liked the taste of fear. "How long to translate this completely?" Tay asked. "The science team says 2 weeks, maybe 3. The alien language is nothing like anything we've ever seen." Tay stood up and walked to his window. Outside, Earth looked peaceful and blue. His people. Safe because they lived so far from everything else. But now they knew they were not alone, and they knew that some of their neighbors were evil. "Get me Admiral Yoon on the secure line," Tay ordered. Priority 1. Admiral Yoon was the head of the United Earth Defense Force. She was also the smartest and scariest person Tay had ever met. If anyone would know what to do, it was her. The call went through in 5 minutes. Yoon's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired, like she had been working for days without sleep. "Commander," she said, "I hope this is important. Ma'am, we have first contact with alien life, and we have a problem." Yoon's expression did not change, but Tay saw her hands tighten on her desk. "Send me everything, now." The next 3 weeks were the busiest in human history. Scientists worked day and night to translate every word of the alien message. Military officers planned for a war they never thought they would have to fight. Engineers started building ships for a journey no human had ever made. When the translation was finally complete, Admiral Yoon called a meeting of every major military leader on Earth. The room was full of people who had spent their careers preparing for wars against other humans. Now they had to think about fighting something completely different. "Ladies and gentlemen," Yoon said, "let me make this simple. There are aliens out there. Some of them are good. Some of them eat the good ones alive. The good ones asked for help. We're going to give it to them. General Kim raised his hand. Ma'am, with respect, we don't even know if these Thailand people are still alive. The message is weeks old. You're right, Yoon said. They're probably dead. But the things that killed them are not, and they're spreading to other systems. She pressed a button, and a star map appeared on the big screen. Red dots showed where devourer attacks had been reported. The pattern was clear. They were moving outward from one central point, eating everything in their path. At their current speed, Yoon continued, they'll reach the edge of our galaxy in 50 years, maybe less. Captain Wan spoke up from the back of the room. He was the commander of humanity's newest and most powerful ship, the experimental dreadnought called Defiance. So we stop them now, while they're far away. My thoughts exactly, Yoon said. For the next hour they talked about logistics. How many ships they could send, how much food and fuel they would need, how long it would take to get there. Finally, someone asked the question everyone was thinking. Ma'am, said Colonel Bin, what if we're not strong enough? These devourers destroyed an entire civilization. We're just one planet. Yoon smiled, and it was not a nice smile. Colonel, let me tell you something about humans. We come from a world that has spent 4 billion years trying to kill everything that lives on it. We survived ice ages, plagues, volcanoes, and asteroid impacts. We turned wolves into dogs and made fire our servant. She stood up and walked to the star map. These devourers think they're the ultimate predators. They think fear makes their food taste better. They have no idea what's coming for them. The yacht room was quiet. Everyone was thinking the same thing. War was coming, and it was going to be terrible. How many ships? Captain Wan asked. All of them, Yoon said. Every military vessel we have. Every ship we can convert. I want the biggest fleet in human history. Over the next month, Earth became a giant military base. Cargo ships were fitted with weapons. Science vessels were turned into hospitals. Mining ships became troop transports. Every shipyard worked day and night. Dr. Nari led a team of psychologists and xenobiologists studying the devourer communications they had intercepted. What she found made everyone angry. The devourers did not just kill for food. They enjoyed causing pain. They kept their victims alive as long as possible because terror improved the flavor. They're not just predators, Dr. Nari reported to Admiral Yoon. They're sadists. They torture people for pleasure. That was when Yoon made the decision that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. She called another meeting, but this one was different. This time, she was not asking for opinions. Our mission parameters are simple, she told the assembled fleet commanders. We are going to find every devourer in that system. We are going to kill them all. We are going to do it in a way that makes sure they never want to meet humans again. She looked around the room at faces that were hard with anger. Geneva Convention does not apply to creatures that torture children for seasoning. Our rules of engagement are no mercy, no quarter, no survivors. Captain Wan stood up. Ma'am, what about prisoners, intelligence gathering? If you find a devourer that wants to surrender and give us information, you can take it prisoner, Yoon said. But remember what they did to those children. Remember that they liked it. The fleet launched 3 days later. 847 ships carrying the best and angriest soldiers humanity had ever produced. They were going to travel farther from home than any human ever had. They were going to fight an enemy they had never seen, but they were going for the right reasons. Someone had hurt children. Someone had enjoyed doing it. Someone had to pay. As the fleet jumped to hyperspace, Admiral Yoon sent one final message to Earth. We go not as conquerors, but as the answer to a cry for help. We are the monsters that hunt monsters. We are the fire that burns away the darkness. The long journey to the Thailand system began. Somewhere ahead, in the cold space between stars, evil was waiting. But evil had never met anything like humanity before. Captain Saul had seen many terrible things in his 20 years as a soldier, but nothing had prepared him for this. His scout ship drifted silently through the Thailand system, and everywhere he looked, he saw death. The first planet was just a ball of gray rock now. Its oceans were gone. Its atmosphere was poison. The orbital cities that once housed millions were twisted metal floating in space. "My God," whispered Lieutenant May from her station. "What happened here?" Sol checked his instruments. According to the scans, this planet used to be a garden world. Forests, oceans, cities, now look at it. They flew past 6 more dead worlds. Each one told the same story. The Devourers had come, eaten everything alive, and moved on. They left behind only empty husks of rock and metal. "Captain," May said, her voice tight with anger, "I'm reading something on the 7th planet. Thylon Prime. There are still life signs." Sol felt his heart speed up. After weeks of traveling through space, after seeing system after system of dead worlds, they had finally found survivors. "Take us in closer, but stay hidden," he ordered. "I want to see what we're dealing with before we announce ourselves." As they got closer to Thylon Prime, Sol saw why some life remained. The planet was covered by a giant energy shield. It flickered and sparked as thousands of Devourer ships attacked it from orbit. "Those ships," May said, studying her sensors. "They're huge, and they're organic, like they're alive." Sol looked at the enemy vessels. They did not look like any ships humans had ever built. They were dark and curved, like giant insects made of metal and flesh. Some of them were feeding on the planet's shield, draining its energy with long tentacles. "How many?" Sewell asked. May counted quickly. "Maybe 2,000 ships, all different sizes. The biggest ones are 20 times larger than our dreadnoughts." Sewell felt cold. The human fleet had 800 ships. The Devourers had 2,000, and they were bigger. But then he noticed something else. Deep scans of the planet showed something that changed everything. "May, look at this," he said, pointing to his screen. "What do you see?" May studied the readings. Underground caverns, huge ones, and wait, those energy signatures, Captain, there are living beings down there. Lots of them. "How many?" "Thousands. Maybe millions. And not just Thylon. I'm reading 17 different species." Sol understood now. The Thylon were not just fighting for their own lives. They were protecting a refuge, a safe place for the children and families of many different worlds. "We need to get this information back to Admiral Yoon," Sol said. "But first, let's see if we can talk to the Thylon." May worked on her communication equipment for an hour before she managed to break through the interference from the Devourer attacks. Finally, a weak signal came through. The voice was tired and full of pain, but still determined. "This is Commander Miso of the Thylon Defense Force. Unknown ship, please identify yourself." "Commander Miso, this is Captain Sol of the United Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call. We're here to help." There was a long silence. Then Miso spoke again, and Sewell could hear tears in his voice. "Earth? The Death World? You actually came?" "We brought friends," Sewell said. "A lot of friends." "How many ships?" Miso asked. 847. Another silence. "Captain Sol, we appreciate your courage, but you need to leave. There are 2,000 Devourer ships in this system. Your fleet will be destroyed." Sol smiled. "Commander, I think you have the wrong idea about humans. We didn't come here to run away from a fight. We came here to end one." Over the next few hours, Sewell and his team learned the full scope of the horror. The Devourers had been attacking the Thylon system for 8 months. They did not just want to conquer it. They wanted to savor it. The monsters would capture Thylon civilians and keep them alive on their feeding ships. They would eat parts of their victims slowly, keeping them conscious and terrified because fear made the meat taste better. They broadcast the screams across the planet to break the will of the defenders. But the worst part was what May discovered when she intercepted Devourer communications. This was not random hunting. The Devourers specifically targeted species, like the Thylon, because they were caretakers. Their natural kindness and empathy made their fear more intense, more flavorful. "They're not just evil," May said, her hands shaking as she read the translations. "They're strategically evil. They hunt good people on purpose." That was when Sewell made his decision. He sent a message back to the main human fleet, now just 6 hours away. Admiral Yoon, this is Captain Sol. The situation is worse than we thought, but also different. The Thailand are protecting refugee children from 17 species. The Devourers are torturing prisoners for flavor enhancement. Recommend immediate maximum force engagement. Admiral Yoon's response came back quickly. Understood. Captain, all ships, battle stations, rules of engagement, light them up. Show these things what happens when you hurt children in front of humans. Sol felt a cold satisfaction. Humans had been soldiers and protectors for thousands of years. They had fought wars against each other, but they had always agreed on one thing: you do not hurt children. Ever. The human fleet arrived in formation, 847 ships arranged in a perfect battle line. Sol had never seen anything more beautiful or more terrifying. Admiral Yoon's voice came over the fleet communications channel. All ships, this is Admiral Yoon. You know why we're here. You've seen what these creatures do to innocents. Today, we show the galaxy what humans do to monsters. The Devourer fleet turned to face them. Sol could see the alien ships moving like a swarm of insects, confident in their numbers. The enemy has us outnumbered 2-1, Admiral Yoon continued. I like those odds. All ships, weapons free. Let's go to work. Captain Wan's dreadnought Defiance fired the first shot. A beam of pure energy cut through space and hit a Devourer cruiser. The alien ship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness. Then all 800 human ships opened fire at once. Sol had been in many battles, but he had never seen anything like this. Human weapons were designed by a species that had spent thousands of years finding better ways to kill each other. They were efficient, deadly, and completely without mercy. The Devourer ships were big and tough, but they were not ready for the sheer volume of firepower that humans could produce. In the first minute of battle, 200 alien vessels were destroyed. All ships. Admiral Yoon's voice was calm and cold. Concentrate fire on their feeding ships first. Every second we delay, more innocents suffer. Sol watched as human weapons turned specifically toward the Devourer vessels that held prisoners. These ships died first, and Sol hoped that death came quickly for the poor souls trapped inside. The battle raged for hours. The Devourers fought back with biological weapons and acid attacks that ate through ship armor. But for every human vessel they destroyed, they lost 10 of their own. Finally, the surviving Devourer ships tried to retreat. They had learned something important about humans. These were not just another prey species. These were apex predators from a world that bred killers. But Admiral Yoon was not done with them yet. All ships, pursuit course, no survivors. We end this here. And they did. The Devourer response came faster than anyone expected. Commander Ray was eating breakfast in the mess hall of her cruiser when every alarm on the ship started screaming at once. All hands to battle stations, came the announcement over the ship's speakers. This is not a drill. Ray ran to the bridge, still holding her coffee cup. What she saw on the main screen made her drop it. The cup shattered on the floor, but she did not notice. Space was full of ships, thousands and thousands of Devourer vessels, all heading straight for the Thailand system. They looked like a plague of locusts made of metal and flesh. How many? She asked her sensor officer. 50,000 ships, ma'am. Maybe more. They're still coming out of hyperspace. Admiral Yoon's voice came over the fleet communication system. She sounded tired but determined. All ships, this is Admiral. The enemy has brought everything they have. They want to finish this fight today. So do we. The human fleet was spread out around Thailand Prime, protecting the planet and its hidden refugees. 800 ships against 50,000. The math was not good, but humans had never been good at math when it came to protecting innocent people. Captain Wan's voice came from the dreadnought Defiance. Admiral, request permission to broadcast a message to the enemy fleet. Granted, Yoon replied. What happened next became legend throughout the galaxy. Captain Wan opened a channel to the Devourer swarm and broadcast something that changed everything. He played the recorded screams of Thailand children being tortured in Devourer feeding chambers. The broadcast went on for 30 seconds. 30 seconds of pure, innocent terror. When it ended, Wan's voice was cold as space itself. You like the sound of children screaming, he said. Let me show you what that sound does to humans. The Defiance opened fire with every weapon it had. But this was not just an attack. It was a statement. The human fleet was not just there to fight. They were there to deliver justice. The Devourer fleet attacked in waves, trying to use their numbers to overwhelm the human ships. But humans had learned something important during their first battle with the aliens. Devourers were bullies. They were used to fighting species that ran away or surrendered quickly. Humans did neither. Commander Ray led a squadron of fast attack ships in a diving run at a cluster of Devourer feeding vessels. These were the ships that held prisoners, the ones where innocents were being tortured and eaten alive. "Remember," she told her pilots over the radio, "every second we waste is another second of suffering for the people in those ships. Fast and clean, people. Let's give them peace." Her squadron tore through the Devourer formation like sharks through a school of fish. Their weapons were precise and deadly, designed to punch through armor and destroy life support systems quickly. The goal was to end the suffering of the prisoners as mercifully as possible. But Ray knew that mercy for the victims meant no mercy for their captors. When her ship's scanners detected a Devourer vessel trying to escape with prisoners still aboard, Ray made a decision that would haunt her dreams for years to come. She ordered a boarding action. "Alpha Team, prepare for hostile boarding," she announced. "Full combat gear. No prisoners unless they surrender immediately." The boarding pod attached to the Devourer ship with a metallic clang that echoed through both vessels. Ray led her Marines through the airlock and into hell itself. The inside of a Devourer ship was a nightmare made real. The walls were covered with organic material that pulsed like living tissue. The air smelled of death and fear, and everywhere, suspended in transparent pods, were the remains of beings who had been kept alive for feeding. Ray had been a soldier. For 15 years, she had seen war, death, and suffering. But what she found in that ship broke something inside her. In one chamber, she found a Thylan child who had been kept conscious while the Devourers slowly consumed his limbs. The child was still alive, still aware, still terrified. "Medic!" Ray screamed, but she knew it was too late. The best they could do was end the child's suffering. That was when the cold thing that lived in every human soldier's heart took over completely. The part that had kept their species alive through ice ages and plagues and wars. The part that turned normal people into perfect killers when someone threatened their young. Ray's team moved through the ship like death itself. The Devourers they found were not soldiers. They were butchers and torturers who had never faced an enemy that fought back with equal brutality. They learned something new about humans that day. When pushed beyond anger into pure, cold rage, humans became something that even demons would fear. Dr. Nari worked frantically in her laboratory ship, trying to find a weakness in Devourer biology. She had samples now, taken from the destroyed ships, and what she found made her sick. The Devourers were not just cruel by choice. They were designed for cruelty. Their brains released pleasure chemicals when they caused pain to other beings. They were literally addicted to torture. "Admiral," she reported to Yoon, "I found something important. The Devourers are not just predators. They're parasites. They need the fear and pain of their victims to survive. Without it, they go insane and die. So if we kill them all, the problem is solved permanently," Yoon replied. "Yes, ma'am, but there's something else. They've been sending signals to other Devourer fleets in distant systems. More are coming." Admiral Yoon made the hardest decision of her career. "Dr. Nari, I need you to find a way to trace those signals back to their source. We're going to hunt down every Devourer in the galaxy. Ma'am, that could take years, maybe decades. Then that's how long we'll spend. No one does this to children while humans are alive to stop it." The battle for Thylan Prime raged for 6 days. The human fleet was outnumbered 60-1, but they had advantages the Devourers did not understand. Human ships were built by a species that had spent thousands of years trying to kill each other efficiently. Human soldiers were trained by a culture that valued sacrifice and protection of innocence above personal safety. Most importantly, humans were fighting for something the Devourers could not understand: justice. Not conquest, not resources, not territory. Just the simple idea that some things were wrong and had to be stopped. By the end of the 6th day, The space around Thailand Prime was filled with the wreckage of Devourer ships. The few enemy vessels that tried to escape found themselves hunted down by human pursuit squadrons that never gave up and never showed mercy. When the last Devourer ship was destroyed, Admiral Yoon opened a communication channel to Thailand Prime. Commander, Miso, this is Admiral Yoon. The immediate threat has been neutralized. Your people are safe. Miso's voice came back weak with exhaustion and amazement. Admiral, I do not know how to thank you. Your people fought like humans, Yoon said simply. We fight for our children, all children, everywhere. But even as they celebrated the victory, everyone knew this was just the beginning. Dr. Nari's scans had detected Devourer signals from dozens of other systems. The galaxy was full of monsters, and now they knew that humans were coming for them. Captain Wan stood on the bridge of the damaged but victorious Defiance and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, more innocents were suffering. More children were crying for help. Set course for the next system, he ordered. We have work to do. The human fleet began to move again, carrying with them a promise that would echo across the galaxy. Evil would not be tolerated. Justice would be served, and the monsters who hurt children would learn to fear the dark, because that's where humans hunted best. 6 months after the Battle of Thailand Prime, Admiral Hana stood in the observation deck of Unity Station and watched something she had never thought possible. Ships from 200 different species were docked at the massive space station that now orbited Earth. The Galactic Protection Summit had brought together every major civilization in known space. They had all come to meet the mysterious Deathworlders who had answered a cry for help with overwhelming force and surprising kindness. Are you nervous? Asked Captain Wan, who stood beside her at the window. His ship, the Defiance, was docked nearby, its hull still bearing scars from a dozen battles against Devourer fleets. Hana smiled. 6 months ago, I sent a desperate message into the darkness, hoping someone would listen. Now I'm about to give a speech to the largest gathering of species in galactic history. Yes, I'm nervous. One laughed. Don't be. You started this. You made the choice to trust us. That took more courage than anything we did. Through the window, they could see Earth below. The blue and green planet looked so peaceful, so normal. It was hard to believe this was the homeworld of the galaxy's most feared warriors. But the proof was everywhere. Human ships patrolled every major trade route now. The Terran Protection Fleet had bases in 50 systems, and for the first time in galactic history, predator species like the Devourers were afraid to hunt. The extermination of the Devourers had taken 4 months of relentless hunting. Human fleets had tracked the parasites to every corner of their territory, following the signals that Dr. Nari had learned to trace. It had been bloody work, but necessary work. The galaxy was clean. Now, for the first time in thousands of years, peaceful species could trade and explore without fear of being hunted for sport. Admiral Hana, came a voice from behind them. They turned to see Commander Miso approaching. The Thailand commander looked much better than he had during the siege of his world. His people were safe now, and the children they had protected were growing up in a galaxy where monsters feared the dark. Commander, Hana greeted him warmly. How are the preparations going? Everything is ready, Miso replied. The representatives are eager to meet with Admiral Yoon and hear about the protection fleet's plans. Admiral Yoon, the human leader, had become a legend across the galaxy. Stories about her spread from system to system. The admiral who had brought the largest military fleet in history across the stars to save strangers. The woman who had declared war on evil itself. Is she really as frightening as the stories say? Miso asked quietly. One grinned. More frightening, but only if you're the kind of person who hurts innocents. If you're just a decent being trying to live your life in peace, she's the kindest person you'll ever meet. The summit began an hour later in Unity Station's main assembly hall. Representatives from 200 species filled the vast space. Some were humanoid, others were completely alien. All of them had one thing in common. They were curious about the Deathworlders who had changed everything. Admiral Yoon took the stage to thunderous applause. She was smaller than many of the aliens expected, but her presence filled the room. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who had made hard decisions and lived with the consequences. "Friends," she began. "6 months ago, most of you had never heard of humans. We were just another species from a distant corner of the galaxy, unknown and unremarkable. That changed when Admiral Hana made the bravest decision any of us have ever seen." She gestured to where Hana sat in the audience. She chose to trust strangers with the lives of innocents. She sent a message into the darkness, hoping that someone good was listening. We heard her, we came, and together we did something that will echo through history. The applause was deafening. Every being in the hall knew the story now, how the human fleet had traveled across the galaxy to fight monsters they had never seen, to save people they had never met because it was the right thing to do. "But we are not here to celebrate," Yoon continued when the noise died down. "We are here to make a promise that what happened to the Thailand people will never happen again. That predator species will never again hunt peaceful civilizations for sport." She pressed a button, and a holographic star map appeared above the stage. Green dots showed human fleet positions throughout the galaxy. "The Terran Protection Fleet now has permanent bases in 50 systems. Our ships patrol the major trade routes. Our soldiers are trained to respond to any threat against peaceful species within 48 hours. A representative from the Zephyrian Council raised a tentacle to speak. "Admiral Yoon, while we appreciate your protection, many of us are concerned. Your species is incredibly powerful. What happens if humans decide to conquer instead of protect?" Yoon had expected this question. It was the fear that every species harbored about the Deathworlders. "A fair question," she replied. "Let me answer it this way. Humans have been exploring space for over 200 years. In all that time, we have never conquered another world. We have never enslaved another species. We have never even taken resources from a planet without permission." She paused to let that sink in. "We could have been conquerors. We have the technology and the firepower. But that's not who we are. We are protectors. We are the species that runs toward danger when others run away." Another representative spoke up, this one from the crystalline hegemony. "What do you want in return for this protection?" "Nothing," Yoon said simply. "We want nothing except the knowledge that innocent beings can sleep safely in their homes, that children can play without fear of monsters, that good people can live their lives in peace." The hall was silent for a moment. Then Captain Wan stood up in the audience. "If I may, Admiral," he said, "I think our friends need to understand something about humans. We're not doing this because we expect rewards. We're doing it because 6 months ago we heard children screaming, and we couldn't ignore it." He walked to the front of the room, his scarred face serious. "My ship, the Defiance, has fought 12 major battles against predator species in the last 6 months. We've lost good people. We've seen terrible things. But every time we save an innocent life, every time we stop a monster, we remember why we're out here." He looked around the room at the hundreds of alien faces. "You want to know what humans want? We want a galaxy where the strong protect the weak instead of preying on them, where kindness is not seen as weakness, where being good doesn't make you a target." The applause started slowly, then built to a roar. These were species that had lived in fear for generations, hiding from predators, hoping that kindness and diplomacy would save them. Now they had protectors, real protectors, who had proven their worth with actions, not words. Admiral Hana took the stage next. "6 months ago, I made a desperate choice," she said. "I sent a message to beings I had never met, asking for help against an enemy I could not fight. The response exceeded my wildest hopes." She gestured to the human delegation. "These people crossed the galaxy to help strangers. They asked for nothing in return except the chance to do what was right. They showed us that the universe is not just full of predators and prey, it's also full of guardians." The summit continued for 3 days. Treaties were signed, trade agreements were made, but most importantly, the Galactic Protection Compact was established. Every peaceful species agreed to support the Terran Protection Fleet with supplies, information, and safe harbors. In return, humans promised to be the guardians the galaxy needed. The monsters that hunted monsters, the fire that burned away the darkness. On the final day of the summit, a special ceremony was held. The Thylan children who had survived the Devourer attacks were brought to the station. They were older now, no longer the terrified refugees they had been 6 months earlier. One of them, a young Thylan named Kira, approached Admiral Yoon with something in her hands. "Admiral," Kira said in perfect English, "the children of 17 species wanted to give you this." She handed Yoon a small crystal sculpture. It showed a human ship flying toward a star, with smaller ships following behind it. "It's called Hope. Answers," Kira explained. "Because that's what happened when you came. Hope answered our call." Yoon accepted the gift with tears in her eyes. Around the station, beings from 200 worlds watched as the most feared admiral in the galaxy knelt down to hug a child she had saved. Later, as the summit ended and the alien delegates prepared to return to their homes, Admiral Hana found herself alone with Admiral Yoon on the observation deck. "Do you think it will work?" Hana asked. "Can humans really protect an entire galaxy?" Yoon looked out at the stars, where human ships were already patrolling the darkness between worlds. "We'll find out. But I know one thing for certain. As long as there are innocent beings out there who need protection, humans will be watching." She smiled. "After all, we're the monsters that hunt monsters, and there's nothing in this universe scarier to a predator than humans who are protecting children." In the years that followed, the galaxy learned to sleep peacefully. Trade flourished, exploration expanded, art and science bloomed in ways they never had when species lived in fear, and in the dark spaces between the stars, human ships patrolled, silently, keeping watch over a galaxy that had finally found its guardians. Children across 200 worlds went to sleep each night knowing that if monsters came,